Hi everyone, it's Lindsay from Sea Salt and Samphire here. Today I'm going to show you how to put together my Harvesting Wishes shadow box that I've just finished designing. It's actually based on an original artwork I did about 5 years ago now that I made for my sister. Because it incorporated all her favourite things. So she loves hot air balloons, she loves stars, and she loves gnomes. So I made up a little story about a gnome called Norman who travels up into the sky at night in a hot air balloon, and he collects all the stars that are full up with wishes. He puts them into his hot air balloon, comes back down, and then harvests all the wishes out of them in order that they could be granted for people. So that's kind of the story behind the shadow box. It's probably more suitable for a child's room to hang on the wall or something, but me and my sister are quite childlike anyway, so if you knew her you'd understand. Okay, so you can see on the screen now all the pieces that I've cut out, so that's all the layers and then all the small collage pieces. Most of the layers are actually going to be two sheets stuck together, because in order to make the stars and make them easy, rather than cutting out all the individual stars and sticking them on, I've cut out a star from the blue layer, and then we're going to put a silver layer behind it to make the stars. Now, stupidly, I didn't check before I wanted to make this tutorial, but I didn't actually have any silver paper left. But what I did have was like a vinyl glitter film that I've been meaning to use for ages, so I thought, oh well, I'll just have to use that. But as you'll see further on in the video, it got a bit tricky putting it together. So when you do yours, please use silver paper rather than a thin flimsy film, and it'll be a lot easier for you to put your own one together. So I'm just going to show you a close-up now of all the small individual pieces. Although there looks a lot, it will be pretty simple to put together. So let me just show you those. So these are the collage pieces. So you've got the pieces of the big balloon and the smaller balloons. There's 5 stars there. The net that goes on the net handle, and then all the pieces of the gnome as well. So let's get started. So I've got layer 4 on the cutting mat first of all, and the majority of the collage pieces actually will be sticking to this layer. So on the right hand side you can see that we've got the gnome's trousers, hat, his net, that's his beard, the base of his face, and then we've got 5 stars here. 4 of the stars are going to go in the basket of the hot air balloon, and one of them will actually be in the net, and that's the basket base. And then these are the larger pieces for the big hot air balloon, and they overlap like this. So what we're going to do, first of all, we're going to stick those together before we stick it onto the onto layer 4. So I'm just going to put some glue. I'll just flip the top bit over and we'll put some glue on the reverse of the darker blue piece. Sorry, I've got a cold yet again. I've never had so many colds since my son started school. They just seem to go round and round. As before, in my other videos, I'm using a sort of a glue pen with a fine nib, so you can quite accurately put the glue on these smaller collage pieces, and also you can leave it to dry slightly so it goes a bit tacky and it will still stick well, but it makes it a bit less messy. I'm probably going to be sticking things straight away, which I should leave to dry a little bit, but just for the sake of the tutorial, getting things done quickly. Okay, so that's all the glue on there. Put the lid on because it does dry out quickly, this glue, if you leave the lid off. Okay, so now we can stick our light blue pieces onto the piece we just put glue on. The darker blue piece, you'll notice, is just very slightly larger around the edge, so that will indicate to you where you need to put the blue piece. Just give it a little rub down to make sure it's stuck. And then we can do the bottom piece of the hot air balloon. Although this shadow box does look tricky, it's actually quite straightforward. It's just some of the pieces are quite tiny. You'll notice on the left of the screen I've actually got my little tweezers, my awl and my my scalpel, or you can use a craft knife. You'll see me use the scalpel to occasionally pick the small pieces up. I sort of stab the paper and pick them up like that. I find it easier than using the tweezers, especially for the really tiny pieces like the stars. So I'm just adding some glue to the reverse of these pieces so that we can stick them onto layer 4. I'm getting stuck already to that. Right, so now we'll take the bottom piece first and carefully line it up with the base of the balloon on layer 4. Make sure it's stuck down. And then we can add the top piece. Now you'll notice there is a gap between the top and bottom piece, that's why they're separate. And the gap is like a brown line, and it's meant to look like the rope that goes around the hot air balloon. I just thought it gave a bit more interest. Originally when I designed it, I did make the smaller balloons have those as well, but it was just getting the pieces were just getting too tiny and complicated. So I omitted those ones. I figured they're in the distance anyway, so you probably wouldn't see them in real life. Okay, so now we're going to, we've flipped layer 4 over, and we're going to stick the balloon basket piece on to cover up the little holes. Again, it just gives a bit more of interest and makes it look more like a woven basket than just having a solid brown basket at the bottom. Just add a little bit of glue. Okay. And again, the outline of the dark brown piece of the basket is just very slightly bigger, so you'll be able to see where you need to put this piece. Okay. Right, we're going to flip this layer back over now, and we're going to start building up the net and the gnome on the front. You'll notice that he's carrying a net, and this is like a loop piece here. But before we put the top of the net on, we're going to add one of the stars that he's caught. And we're going to just see that there, see the sparkle. But we need to kind of tuck it underneath the bottom of the loop and stick it over the top of the loop, if you see what I mean here. So we need to put our glue on the top part of the loop, or loop, not sure, hoop maybe. This is where it gets a little bit fiddly. I was just getting rid of some glue there because I didn't want it to stick to the mat. Right, I'm going to use my scalpel to pick this star up. And just need to carefully sort of slide it in between. Now you want it so that you'll be able to see that it's a star once we put the net piece on. So just try and sort of pull it down as far as you can, but make sure it also sticks at the same time. Okay, right, so now we're just going to add some glue around the outline of where the net's going to go. If you don't have a glue pen like this one, you can use your awl or a cocktail stick just to add your glue. Okay. Right, and then this is our white net. Whoops, get stuck to everything. This is our white net piece. It's just going to go over the brown outline. And it should cover up the brown outline as well. And then you'll know that it's in the right place. You might have to sort of carefully wriggle it about a little bit to get it right. Okay. Happy with that? Right. Oops. Right, so now we're going to add the Gnome's trousers. I've done his trousers in green this time just for a change, because I usually do them in, I usually do them in grey colour, so I thought I'd give him green this time. Right, so we're going to add this at the back of the gnome. So you want his feet to still be visible. And if you'll notice on the right hand side of the green piece it's sort of wiggly, sorry. And that the pink piece or skin piece, you can obviously do it any skin colour you want. They kind of tessellate together, so you'll know that they're in the right place. So I'm just putting glue on the pink piece here. I'm going to pick it up with my scalpel again, just because I'm getting glue all over my fingers, and it's because it'll end up a messy enterprise. Okay, so can you see where they kind of interlock, so tessellate together? And the hand of the gnome should look like it's gripping the handle of the fishing net. You can also see his nose there. Right, so now this is the beard and hair piece of the gnome. And this is going to go on top of the pink piece that we just added. And the white of the beard and hair should cover up all of the pink apart from the hand and the nose. Whoops. This is why I should leave it to go tacky a bit, because it'll just end up slipping all over the place. Okay, so that's the beard and hair on. Right, so now we're going to add his little hat. Because what is a gnome without a little red hat? When I showed my son, he's 5, when I showed him the finished shadow box of this, he thought it was actually Santa Claus rather than a gnome. So I guess he does look a bit like Santa. Right, so just carefully put his hat on, and the base of the hat will actually overlap the white hairpiece slightly, so it looks like it's on top of his head. Again, you might need to sort of wriggle it about carefully to get it into the right place. Okay, so make sure that's stuck down. Right, we're nearly finished with this layer now. What we need to do is flip it back over so that we can add the 4 little stars to his basket, so it looks like he's collected some stars already. Now this is going to be the most fiddly piece, so I'm going to be using my scalpel a lot probably to pick up the tiny stars. And what we're going to do is we're going to add glue to the very top edge of the basket in the middle, and to the base of the ropes where they meet the basket, because we want, when we turn it back over again, we want to be able to see the tops of the stars. And I'm going to put the 2 smaller stars on first, so when we flip the layer back over they'll be at the front. I don't know if you can see that, it's quite tricky to get the camera to focus because the stars are so small. Right, so this is going to get a bit fiddly for me, I think. Right, that's one. And the second one. There's not really a set pattern that you've got to put these on, to be honest. Just as long as you bear in mind that you need to be able to see the tops of them when you turn the layer back over. Oh dear, delicate work. Again, I probably should have left the glue to dry a bit longer. Oh no, I'm getting in the right pickle here. I should have left the glue to dry a bit longer so it was more tacky rather than runny, because they're just not sticking properly. Yeah, let's start again. Right. Hopefully when you do your one you won't have this many problems. I think it's purely because it's a vinyl film and not paper. That's why it's just not sticking, because it's kind of quite shiny. So it just doesn't like the glue for some reason. Okay, so that's our 4 stars. There we go. Right. I'm going to use the base of my scalpel to make sure they're pushed flat, rather than my finger, because they just keep sticking to my finger when I do that. Okay, so now we can flip layer 4 back over. That's what it looks like, and we've finished with layer 4 now for the time being, and put that to one side. So before we carry on with the other layers, we're just going to stick the smaller hot air balloons together. And I'm just going to spread the pieces out so I can see what I'm dealing with. So this is the blue, the dark blue underpiece that goes on top of the brown piece, and then the orange piece goes on top of that. I'm just dry fitting it just to make sure I've got them around the right way, because obviously they're the same colour either side, so it's tricky to. The reason being the base of the hot air balloons are very slightly different either side, so I want to make sure I've got them the right way round. Okay, so I'm gonna add glue to the reverse of the orange piece first. Make sure there's enough glue on there. And then I'm going to stick the dark blue piece. Oh, getting it stuck to me again. I think I'm going to use my scalpel to pick this up. going to stick the dark blue piece to the orange piece. Again, the orange piece is very slightly, the edge of it is very slightly bigger, and so you'll sort of have a border so you know where the blue piece goes. Right, now I'm going to add glue to the blue piece and the orange piece, and I'm going to stick it onto the brown balloon base. Okay, just rub it with my finger now just to make sure it's stuck. And then we're going to do the same process for the slightly larger balloon. I'm just going to double check I've got this around the right way. Yep. Okay, right, so I've turned it over and we're going to add glue to the reverse of the purple, or light, I suppose it's lilac really, isn't it? It's sort of a light purple. Just spread the glue out a little bit. Okay, then we need to pick up the light blue piece. Make sure there's a slight lilac edge so that the blue's right in the centre. And then we're going to add glue to the blue piece. And then we're going to stick that onto the dark brown balloon base. You might have to wriggle it a bit just to get it in the right position, because the obviously the lilac and blue should be covering all of the brown piece where the balloon is. Right, so they're my two little balloons. I'm just going to put them back in my pot so I don't lose them, because we're going to need those in a little while. Whoops, it's trying to run away again. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is glue our silver layers onto our blue layers. So the blue layer I've got here is called the mount layer. This layer and also the background layer in the shadow box don't have a number on, because you obviously don't want to see the number when you've finished your shadow box. I've just sped this up because it's tedious watching me add glue to that, that amount of paper. Right, now here's where I'm having the issues with my glitter vinyl film, because as you can see it's really floppy. If this was paper it would just be so much easier. So I've kind of learnt my lesson now. I'm going to use silver paper next time I make this, or get some kind of glitter paper. The only problem with glitter paper is I find it makes a real mess when I cut it with my silhouette machine. And the ones that are like the glitter papers that sort of are meant to be ones that don't shed, I don't find them as glittery. They don't really seem like real glitter paper. So I don't really know what the answer is, to be honest. As you can see, this film is just wrinkling up. It really doesn't like the glue, so I'm just going to try and smooth it down as well as I can. As you can see, there's a number 1 there, so the silver layer is what I'm classing as layer 1, whereas the blue layer is the mount layer. It's all written in the instructions that come with the files, so you'll know which is which. Okay, so you can see now that's made the glittery stars without having to cut out and stick each individual star on, which I think when I first made the version for my sister of this shadow box and I was cutting it by hand, bear in mind, I'm pretty sure I did actually cut out all the individual stars. So yeah, it would have taken a long time. Okay, so this is layer 2 and layer 3. So we're going to flip layer 2 over and add some glue, and I'm speeding this one up again. I really wish I could do it this quickly in real life, because it would take a lot less time. And this accurately as well. I mean, I probably could do it this quickly, but it wouldn't be accurate, there'd be glue everywhere. Just make sure you sort of go around each individual star as much as you can, and then it will mean that it sticks better, especially near the edges. Okay, right. So let's put this. It's a shame it's so flimsy, because this film is really pretty. It's like really glittery, and it doesn't shed actually. I can't remember what brand it is. I think it's something like Vivagade or Vidagade. I know they make a lot of different craft materials. Okay, so that's now our layer 2 in our shadow box. I'm just pushing it down around this way just to make sure it's stuck properly. I'm also going to leave all of these layers to dry completely before I put my shadow box together. Right, so there we go. That's layer 2. And then the last one we need to do is to stick layers 5 and 6 together. Before I add the silver, layer 6 to the back of 5, we're just going to glue our sort of middle size hot air balloon onto the middle right of the layer. You can see there's a piece there sticking out that we're going to glue it onto. Okay. Just make sure that's pressed down and stuck well before we flip it over. Right, and then we need to add some more glue to this layer so we can stick our silver layer on. I'm going to speed it up again. Incidentally, you've probably noticed, which I haven't mentioned, which I should have done, there are cut out rectangles around the edges of some of these layers. This is because we're putting lights in the shadow box, and we're going to put them at the back of the shadow box. Some people do weave their lights through each layer, but it just gets really tricky trying to do it that way. So rather than do that, the method I've come up with is putting the lights in between the back 2 layers. But then doing extra cutouts so you can't see from the front of the shadow box, that just lets more light shine through. Because although the back layer will have cut out stars where the light shine through, it still really doesn't let enough light through to light up the whole shadow box. So that's why I've got extra cutouts on some of the layers. Okay, this stuff is really wrinkly and horrible. Okay, right, so that's our that's layer 5 now. Just pressing it down again to make sure it's stuck. The only reason I can get away with this silver film is because I'm sticking it to another layer. There's no way it'd be suitable if it was a silver layer on its own. Right, so the last thing we need to do before we can put our shadow box together is we need to stick that last little orange hot air balloon. The best way to do this is stack all the layers together that we've already got, just so we can make sure we get it in the right place. And if you'll notice, sort of bottom left underneath the balloon basket, there's kind of an area where there's no stars, so that's where we're going to stick our little hot air balloon. I'll just show you now. I'm going to put him just there, and that's going on layer 7, on the light up layer. So this is the layer that goes in front of the lights. I've actually got all my spacers prepared for this shadow box, which you'll see in the next part of the video. If you haven't seen my channel before, I have actually got a video on how to make spacers and also how to fix the lights to the last spacer if you're going to do a light up shadow box. So if you need to know how to prepare the spacers, then you'll need to watch that video, because I'm not actually going to do it in this video. Right, so I've got all my pieces ready and we can just assemble the shadow box now. So that's the mount layer going in first, and then we're going to add a spacer, and then layer 2, and then another spacer, and then we're going to add layer 4, which is our main layer with the hot air balloon and gnome. And then we're going to add another spacer. I think there's 5 spacers altogether for this one. And then we're going to add layer 5. And then another spacer. And then the next layer is layer 7, and that's what I call the light up layer. So we're going to put this layer in, and it's got the star cutouts, and then we're going to put in our spacer layer that's got the lights wrapped around it, or the LEDs wrapped around it. Oops. Just make sure I get the wire around the right way where it comes out the box, otherwise it doesn't lay flat. Whoops. There we go. And then this is our background layer. As you can see, it's that film again. Hopefully it will go in okay. It's a bit flimsy. Right, and then I'm going to put them back on the shadow box. I use this shadow box for all my examples, so it's looking a bit battered at the moment because I've had it quite a few years now. I think I'm going to have to add new tabs as well, because they feel like they're going to come off soon. Okay, so there's our little shadow box. Our little gnome catching his stars. Okay, so I'm going to turn the lights off in the studio so you can see the LEDs shining through the background stars, and also see the lights coming through the side, see the outline of the clouds. So that's our Harvesting Wishes shadow box finished. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.